Tudu started with engaging a mage about the Shard of Ultimate Evil. Turns out it is concentrated evil that was used by creatures called the Oberiths to escape their dead plane into the prime material plane that you guys are on. The shard was placed into the elemental plane of chaos, and as it fell through the plane, it began creating the infinite abyssal layers. It continues creating those layers even today. Getting portals to it is difficult because it's a moving target. It's creating planes of existence as it falls through the planes of chaos. So the best you could do would be to get a plane to one of the newly created planes and then jump into the infinite rift and chase the gem as it continues falling through chaos. There are rumors that there is a portal on the gem itself. And if that's true, then the portal on another plane to that portal would have to be on a plane that is pure evil itself. And there's a lot of there's a lot of planes that are evil. The gem has been pursued by all the big names of the great evils. Tharizdun, Asmodeus, Demogorgon, Orcus, Loth, even Vecna. All of them have histories of trying to get their hands on that gem. Asmodeus actually got to it and broke a tiny piece of it off. That is the ruby on the top of his scepter that gives him so much power. Vecna actually got to it and attuned to it, but as soon as he did, his general betrayed him, cut off his hand, and drove an artifact sword right into his eye, stopping that effect to take control of the gem. All of those actors are still pursuing the gem. They all still want it. The Oberiths are still active in the prime material plane. Most of them have been killed off, but they're still going after it as well. The gem itself, when it came to the prime material plane, it first came to the ethereal plane. It was seized by Tharizdun and then taken to the elemental plane of chaos. So finding the spot where it actually entered, that's going to be somewhere on the ethereal plane. Titu also did some research on how to destroy some of these portals. It depends on the portal, but there's some common ways on destroying portals. A high-level dispel magic, if your dispel magic is as powerful as the person who created the portal, you're good to go. An anti-magic field, that'll shut it down. There's reverse polarity. You can cast a gate on top of a gate to shut it down. Most gates have a nullifying key where if you can sacrifice something at the gate, it can shut it down. For a gate of ultimate evil, you'd have to sacrifice something of ultimate good. And then the most common way is force damage. You can punch down a gate if you hit it with enough magical force energy. The downside is that portals become unstable when they get damaged like that, and it tends to cause damage to the people around them. Jiro went to study how to break a devilish contract. And again, there's some established ways to do it. The most common way to do it is to kill the thing that you made a contract with. So if you can kill Asmodeus, you're out of that contract. Killing doesn't mean permanently. If you can bring him to 0 hit points, the king is dead and your contract is broken. If you don't want to try and kill Asmodeus, the other way it is done is to pledge your alliance to another deity. The hard part about that is that deities get a little bit uppity about that. If you're pledging to one god and then you turn around and you're like, I changed my mind, I want to pledge to you, they're going to ask for some kind of sacrifice from you, whether it's a personal sacrifice if they're a good god, or a horrifically literal sacrifice if they are not a good god. Those are the two main ways. Kill the person you have a contract with, or find somebody else to pick up your contract. Anwin, when she gets back to Candlekeep, she finds that so many priests of Ogma have heard about her exploits, and they are absolutely losing their mind over the idea that she has personally spoken to their god. The encounter in the woods where Ogma came and personally helped you is a big deal to the clerics of Ogma. And topped by the fact that she's now a diva, yeah, they think that she is personally and directly connected to their god, and they kind of pseudo worship her when she's around. Um, while she's there, Headmaster Bookworm comes and asks for an audience with her. He explains that Miriam the dragon is truly gone from Candlekeep. She's been gone for months now. The problem is she was the one that protected the catacombs of Candlekeep, and with her gone, things are starting to brew up down there. There's a bunch of undead, specifically ghosts, that have taken over her lair. That's a particular problem for Candlekeep because the ghosts are dominating people that they can come in contact with and then using those people to get into the library. And they're going around destroying some of the library's most important books on undead. So the library has already lost 6 of their most ancient tombs and most useful information sources about undead from these ghosts sneaking in and destroying things. Havelock, you wanted to do some studying on Skullport. Skullport is a undercity in the city of Waterdeep. It's pretty well known. It's a massive smuggler's cave and is somewhat approved by the Council of Waterdeep. They don't shut it down even though they know it's there. It is run essentially by the mob boss Xanathar. He is never seen. He's a beholder who is one of the most paranoid creatures on the continent, so he's hardly ever seen by anybody. He does have 5 lieutenants that live in Skullport, and if you want an audience with them, or with him, you would need to go talk to one of them. During your research, you do find the specific details on one of their larger hideouts in the sewer of Waterdeep, so you've got a way to contact them if you want to. Aaliyah, you did research on several things, starting with Lord Six. Lord Six is a powerful lich that lives in Kars. It turns out that that is actually a second name for him. His original name was Wulgrith of Askelhorn. And he has gone into Kars to tap into the undead energy of a thing called the Kars Stone. The Kars Stone is fountaining out a river of blood, and Wulgrith uses that blood in his necromantic rituals. It is well known that that Kars Stone is also Wulgrith's phylactery. So he protects it pretty strongly, but it's rare that a lich lets people know where his phylactery is. You know where this thing's phylactery is. It is inside the dead body of a god that is in Kars. Wulgrith also is renowned for having come up with a spell that can turn non-humanoids into zombies. Very few necromancers have been able to pull that off, and he is able to turn rats and rabbits and deer, whatever he wants, into zombie creatures. And it's a big deal because there's a lot of those creatures in the forest, so he's got a little tsunami of zombies if he wants it. He lives in the pyramid within the necropolis of Kars. He is protected by a Lieutenant Jingleshod, who is a Death Knight. Not too much is known about Jingleshod other than he carries an artifact sword. Getting information about the Dead Three is pretty easy. What the sages are able to tell you is that the priests of Baal, Merkel, and Bane have become significantly more powerful in the last 6 months. Something is enhancing their necromantic power. There's different theories on what's going on there. The most common one is that Orcus is somehow enhancing everyone's necrotic energy along the Sword Coast region, and the Dead Three are just taking advantage of that. The Dead Three have always been active in Baldur's Gate, ever since there's been a Baldur's Gate. They seem to have some special tie to it. There's been plenty of heroes that have tried to purge them out of the city, but they keep coming back. They seem integral to that city for some reason. In the last 3 months, their activity has really surged, and no one's really sure why they're going on this murder hobo spree. They don't seem to have a specific agenda other than just to sow chaos. You did some research on how to best fight undead. You got some decent information about that. Generally, if you can destroy the leaders of the undead, the minions will just kind of fade away. In battle, when you're fighting any kind of undead, radiant damage is going to be your best bet. Having the ability to turn them will keep the minions off you. And then having Dispel Magic, since so many of them use different magical effects, having a Dispel Magic's a good idea. Specifically, when fighting large groups of undead, like undead armies, the undead have to rely on relics to protect themselves and their minions from the forces of good and light, right? So you already found a charnel house that they've been using, but that's kind of a common theme for them. They have charnel houses, dark lodestones, reliquaries, defiled ossuaries. There's a wide range of things that they put in place to help protect their weaker minions. Lastly, you had tried to develop a relationship with the Sword of Zerial. And what you see is that the sword seems to be in a constant state of mourning. It was created to destroy fiends and to be wielded by righteous crusaders. And you are not that. It misses the good old days. It's a device of pure law and pure good, and it really doesn't see any gray areas in that conversation. And there's times when you feel like it's kind of judging you. And it reminds you what happens to not good creatures that touch it. And while it doesn't say specifically to be careful, you get the sense that that's its warning. That if you go down a path of not lawful goodness, someday you're going to reach out and touch that sword, and it's going to destroy you.